Now that we are done reading and dissecting the entire passage A, let's move on to the questions, starting with question 1. As we work through each part together, I'll explain how to locate the answer, what type of question it is, and how Cambridge expects you to write your response. Remember, never rush straight into answering. First, read the question carefully, identify the command word, check the line reference if one is given, understand exactly what the examiner is asking, and then answer in your own words whenever the question tells you to do so. Question 1 Part A says, in what way is the structure of redwood trees the opposite of most trees? This is an explicit question because the answer is stated directly in the passage. Go to the lines mentioned in the question and find where the writer compares redwood trees with ordinary trees. Since the question asks, in what way, you only need to identify one difference. The answer is, unlike most trees, the branches of a redwood become larger and more complicated towards the top instead of getting smaller. Since this question is worth 1 mark, one complete sentence is enough.
Next, question 1 Part B asks, using your own words, explain what the text means by ancient giant of the forest. Pay close attention to the instruction. Using your own words. This tells you that you must not copy the phrase directly from the passage. So here, let's break the phrase into 2 parts. Think about what ancient means and also what giant means in this context. Because this question is worth 2 marks, both ideas must be explained. The answer is, the tree is extremely old and exceptionally large. Here, extremely old explains ancient, while exceptionally large explains giant, so both marks are covered.
Before moving on, here's an examination tip. Always write your answers within the answer lines provided. If you make a mistake, don't scribble over it. Simply draw one neat line through the incorrect answer. If you continue your answer elsewhere, clearly write the question number, part number, and the reference showing where the rest of your answer has been written. Now, question 1 Part C says, give 2 features of the enormous trunk of nameless that would make it difficult to begin to climb this particular tree. This is another explicit question. Read only the specified lines and identify 2 different features. Since it is worth 2 marks, you need to give 2 separate answers. The answer is, the bark is soft and crumbly, making it difficult to grip. The trunk also has no branches on its lower section to help someone begin climbing. Each feature earns 1 mark. Then, question 1 Part D asks, give 2 details that show the relentless speed with which a redwood tree can grow, according to the text. The words, according to the text, tell you that the information is given directly in the passage. Find the paragraph about the growth of redwood trees and choose 2 facts that demonstrate how quickly they grow. The answer is, a redwood can grow to about 16 meters tall within its first 20 years of life. It can also reach more than 75 centimeters in diameter in fewer than 60 years. 2 separate facts have been given, so both marks are secured. Moving on, question 1 Part E asks, explain what Mo is thinking when he looked again at the lowest branch of a smaller tree standing next to nameless. This is an inference question because you need to explain Mo's thoughts, not simply describe his actions. Think about what is going through his mind at that moment. The answer is, Mo is thinking about using the smaller tree as a way to reach and climb nameless. 1 clear sentence is enough because this question carries 1 mark. One important point you need to remember is how to refer to the narrator or characters in your answers. If the passage is anonymous and the narrator is not given a name, you should refer to the narrator as the writer in your answers. Avoid writing I or answering from the first-person point of view, even though the passage may be written in the first person. For example, instead of writing, I felt frightened, you should write, the writer felt frightened. However, if the passage gives the characters' names and the questions mention those names, then you should use the character's name in your answer. For example, if the question asks, explain what Mo is thinking when he looked again at the lowest branch of a smaller tree standing next to nameless, your answer should begin with, Mo is thinking, rather than, the writer is thinking, because the question is specifically about Mo. So, always pay close attention to how the question is worded. If it refers to the writer, write about the writer. If it refers to a named character, use that character's name in your answer. In every case, your response should explain the events, thoughts, or feelings from that person's perspective, not from your own.
Next, question 1 of Part F asks, how does Mo feel about trying to climb nameless? Since the examiner is asking about Mo's feelings, begin by identifying an appropriate emotion in your own words. The answer is, Mo feels confident and determined to climb nameless. Next, Part 2 then asks, give 2 details from the text to support your answer. Because this part is worth 2 marks, you must provide 2 separate pieces of evidence from the passage. The answer is, he suddenly leapt onto the smaller tree without hesitation. He carefully studied the situation instead of giving up when he realized how difficult the climb would be.
Now, first part of G asks, during his climb, Mo discovered a problem which he had not seen when he was on the ground. What was the problem? This is another explicit question. Read the relevant lines carefully and identify the obstacle that Mo discovers. The answer is, he realized there was a gap between the two trees, so he could not simply walk across. Part 2 of the same question then asks, what did Mo decide to do to solve the problem? The answer comes immediately after the problem has been explained in the passage, so focus only on Mo's solution. So, the answer is, he decided to jump from the smaller tree across to Nameless. Finally, the last part, H asks, explain using your own words Marwood's different feelings about Mo climbing Nameless. Give 3 details from anywhere in the text to support your answer. Since this question is worth 3 marks, you need to explain how Marwood's feelings change throughout the passage. Don't simply list emotions. Explain each feeling and support it with evidence from the text. The answer is, at first, Marwood is amazed because he cannot believe Mo is seriously planning to climb the tree. As Mo begins climbing, he becomes worried and thinks it is a dangerous and foolish idea. Later, he feels frightened and pessimistic, closing his eyes because he expects Mo to fall and be badly hurt. So, as you can see, the number of marks is usually a good guide to how much you should write. For a 1-mark question, 1 complete sentence is usually enough. For a 2-mark question, aim to give 2 separate points or ideas. And for a 3-mark question, explain 3 relevant points in clear, complete sentences. This is how we successfully attempt question 1 of the comprehension section and maximize our marks.